Hey, Mark, I got some caribou on the grill.
Rare?
Yeah, you want some? The following podcast contains graphic descriptions of international celebrating and global merrymaking. It may not be suitable for angry or unhappy audience members. Listener discretion is advised. You've been warned.
Have you ever seen any of those foreign films? I don't like them.
Some are born great, others achieve greatness, and some watch Christmas movies.
We are the wild and crazy guys.
Well, they're both festive, aren't they?
Joyeux Noel!
And we are the festive foreign film fans. Well, happy Thanksgiving weekend, Mark, and post Black Friday.
That's right.
So if you remember when we were talking about my uncle Antoine,
Yes.
and in Quebec, and we had already learned how to say Merry Christmas in French. So we decided we looked at the tribe that was up there, and we learned how to say Merry Christmas in that tribal language. And we kind of made a side mention, like, wouldn't it be fun if we could find like a Native American Christmas film?
Yeah. I mean, who knew, right? I think I love how we challenge ourselves to this, right? It's,
And we're excited because we did rise to that challenge. But because we are celebrating Thanksgiving on this weekend and a holiday to give thanks for all that you have, it's a great thing.
it is.
It's a great custom, and I'm so happy that we have it.
Yeah.
So, Mark, what are you thankful for?
As we sat around, and, thought about, the year and the year past, right? I mean, we're always thankful for, friends and families and things, obviously we're very thankful about being grandparents, but, one of the things my mom used to always say, which was, it took me years to sort of appreciate this. She always said, I'm thankful that I'm thankful. And, what she meant by that is that, so many times people just take for granted certain things. They take for granted people, their physical goods, their health and stuff. And, she said, I never want to stop being thankful for the things I have.
When you first said it, I'm like, it's almost like a brain teaser. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, that's awesome because it's not any particular thing that necessarily you should be thankful for. You should be thankful that you have things to be thankful for.
Yeah, and remember to be thankful, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes people don't even take the smallest thing and really take a minute and say, wow, I have had good fortune, or I have good health this last year. So what about you?
Well, the thing is, though, I am living through the joy of, for you, I would imagine with the, not two grandchildren, Christmas coming up, it adds that a whole new element to have them small kids back. I mean, I can't wait for the day that is the case for me.
Yeah, it was so much fun last year. I mean, Jackson literally tore a 1/8 of an inch strip of paper off each present that he got. So I think this year will be a lot of fun. I think Lena, at 6 months, maybe won't fully get it, but I think she'll be dazzled by the lights.
Yeah, the lights, and they just get excited to see those things, and it's so fun. And I mean, we had a great year too. But now I'm fully adopting your mom. I have a job, I have a wonderful family. I live in a house. I mean, those are all,
Yeah. I mean, my mom was full of a lot of wisdom, and she would always remind us too that, there's always someone who is worse off, and there's always someone who could use your help. So, I mean, she was she would ground us really well all year round as well as at Thanksgiving. So
when you said that, that's what I thought. She would ground you like, yeah, you get drunk. She'd ground you all the time.
Well,
yes.
No comment.
So, and I want to believe, in light of tonight's movie, that it was the Indians, the Native Americans, who came to that first Thanksgiving and taught the Pilgrims to give thanks to, the Great Spirit.
Yeah. It's interesting though. We'll talk about a little about traditions where it was really kind of about the great spirits, right? But really the Christianity part of Christmas was really brought to the Native Americans by those who settled in America. So, what's your kickoff? What's the first things you did after Thanksgiving to kick off the Christmas season?
So this is obviously a big weekend. Typically, because I kind of got the community involved in the community decorations, lights, and that. So we have a community tree that we put ornaments on. So I decorate that tree, and I usually do that. So we have Thanksgiving. So on Friday I did that, put all the decorations up for that. And the lights will go on this weekend for the Christmas lights, my home lights. And this is now, it's like we started pulling the stuff out. Years ago, we used to not even pull the stuff out until this Thanksgiving weekend. Now we pull it out and we have it all ready to go. In fact, I like to say we don't put our decorations up till after Thanksgiving, but we start way before. So I would say it's completed on Thanksgiving weekend. So,
there you go.
So yeah, it's decorating, and then my calendar. I have my calendar all ready to go because I like to be prepared. Come December 1st, I like to do something special every single day. I like to. Now, I don't always do it. And that's also, it's not just doing things, but it's also, doing kind of good things. And, I'll give people, hand out lottery tickets. I'll give away gift cards, things like that. Just something to recognize the holiday.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'd say that really the very first thing I do is I get out the box of Christmas CDs and I play music. So when we're cooking, and by we're cooking, Sue's cooking and I'm cleaning up for Thanksgiving dinner, we're playing sort of, our favorite Christmas CD. So this sort of starts to mesh together. But we do have the lights up, and we're ready to go.
That's great. So it's the music. Once the music kicks in, the season has begun.
Yeah, and we won't talk about how some of the local Chicago radio stations start playing Christmas music even like at the end of Halloween.
Yeah, usually November 1st.
Yeah,
boom,
exactly.
It's all Christmas all the time.
Exactly. But yeah, let's talk about our movie.
Want to watch a Christmas movie?
Christmas movies are our bread and butter.
We eat Chinese food and watch Christmas movies.
I heard it's the best Christmas movie since Home Alone.
Today's movie is called Christmas in the Clouds. It was released in 2001. Some of the actors that part are in it. Right? There's really like three main characters. There's another guy I'll talk about a little bit later, but the main character is Ray Clouds on Fire. Is the character in the movie. He's played by Timothy Vahale. Timothy Vahale is not indigenous, but he is playing a Native American role. He was actually born in Chicago, and he's best known for this movie and also an episode of Wishbone, which I love Wishbone.
Yes, I do too.
And I want to go back and look and see where he is, but which is a popular PBS television show about a dog and who sort of relives famous literature. So,
I one time heard a podcast about Wishbone and oh my gosh, like all the tricks that dog could do and how good he was trained to wear all those costumes. It was amazing.
Is it good? Very good. So Ray Clouds on Fire is sort of the main character, the main love interest. Tina Little Hawk is the character name of Mariana Tosca. And Mariana Tosca is an actor who's also appeared in Parenthood, So I Married an Axe Murderer, and the movie The Doors.
Oh, on the band. Yeah.
Yep, on the band. Yep. She is actually Albanian and Greek, although not Native American. She has been adopted into the Sauk and Fox tribe as the daughter of the tribe's chief.
I wonder if that was because of this movie.
Yeah, I couldn't find that. I thought that self, but I believe that I'm going to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
She's also a social activist. She serves on the boards of Save the Chimps with Dr. Jane Goodall.
Wow.
Yep. She's also serves for the $10 Club, which assists in developing underdeveloping countries. She also is works with elephants and wants to preserve elephants as well. And at that organization is called Elephant Voices. And she's also in the Academy of Music for the Blind, and also Born Free USA. So a very philanthropic type person.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yep. She founded the Los Angeles Homeless Coalition, where she also serves as a campaign advisor for several candidates in California. So very socially active. She's adorable in the film. Plays this very sweet person. The third person I would highlight is Joe Clouds on Fire, which is Ray's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's played by Sam Valojas. Sam is also not indigenous. He's of Greek and Mexican descent, but he also played several North American characters, including Little House on the Prairie, Gunsmoke.
Wow.
So he's a little bit long in the tooth.
Yeah.
And the Powwow Highway. Although he's had an extensive acting character and worked in television movie, his greatest love has been the theater.
What's a little disappointing, it seems like because of these three principal actors, none of them are indigenous, that this isn't a true indigenous film, but there are a lot of indigenous actors in this film. Yeah. It's kind of unfortunate that this doesn't give that impression, but it's important to point out there were, quite a bit.
Yeah, and remember the context of the time. So it's in 2001 that this was released. Siskel and Ebert actually did review this movie and actually gave it a star rating of 3 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
And I thought some of the commentary was interesting because they felt like this was one of the first movies that had been released that is focusing in on the Native American families.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, there's a lot of support characters that are Native American. But they felt like this was a from beginning to end a really positive portrayal of the indigenous people, their culture. Right, that previous movies, again, this is 2023. Think about 2001 prior. That really, so many of the Native Americans were not portrayed in a positive light, and they really felt like this movie was very good. It was a great rom-com, but also really promoted the Native American culture.
Which, if you think of it, there is quite a family element through this, and you do see customs and traditions sprinkled in through the movie.
You do.
Throughout it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this could be on any Hallmark channel movie. One thing I did differently for this movie, Bob, that would be interesting. So we've talked about where we typically watch the movies. On this one, Sue actually sat down and watched the movie with me. So usually, I know you've talked in previous podcasts. I do the same thing.
I should have the smarter family member here then.
Wait. I think you just dug me there. I think you just dinged me. But it was interesting because most of the times, like, I'm busy taking notes and stuff like that. But, it was like we just happened to have this free afternoon. And I said, hey, do you want to watch it? And this one actually is on Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. And so it was fun to watch it with her. I'll share some of her comments later. But it was just a different experience than sitting there taking notes and ready to review. But the movie is set in Nevada or Utah, sorry, and it's a rom-com. And think about this movie. The backdrop is that there's this beautiful ski resort that's being run by Ray Cloud, and it's not doing great. It's not doing poorly, but it's just struggling a little bit. And so
Hey, can I interject something?
Yeah.
Because I hadn't thought about this until you just described that review. You know, what isn't here in this film is a casino. There's no casino. And I'm thinking just fairly recent portrayals of, in Yellowstone and some other movies I've seen. Typically, you have it's always about the Native American casinos, and there's always this kind of syndicate type element. Only it's the indigenous people syndicate. So you're right. I mean, there's no casino here.
Nothing, right?
No.
Which is what Siskany and Ebert both commented on when they did the review. And so I have to correct myself. So the film's actually set in Utah during the holidays, right? So everything's all festive, and it's operated by the Native American Nation. Ray Cloud on Fire is sort of this overworked manager who's returned from college to run the struggling ski resort. He's tipped off, right? This is where it starts against you. He's tipped off that this national review company, right? Companies that go out and review with like a TripAdvisor.
Yes, yep.
Right? They tell you that you apply to have your place reviewed. They tell you when they're coming. They just don't tell you when, and just don't tell you who that reviewer is going to be. So he's been tipped off that this person is coming, and so he decides to pull out all the stops, make sure everything's perfect, gets everybody together, say you got to be on your best behavior. We need this, and so he's all excited about this, and so almost like over focus. So there's Ray at the ski resort. Then there's Tina, right? So Tina is a young woman. She's a widower. She has been corresponding with someone, and she is sort of in her life in New York City. She's downplaying her Native American culture, and so she hasn't been using her Little Hawk name, and so she's been corresponding. And she tells her mom and her grandma, like, I'm going to go visit this guy. Like, I need to see him. I've lived my life. Unfortunately, my husband died, but I'm going to go visit them. I'm going to visit this person and just put myself out there.
And they are true pen pals. I mean, It's like letters, even though it's 2001, they could have been emailing. No, they're, longhand.
Longhand letters talking about each of them talking about their losses, right? And so Tina is thinking, she's writing back and forth with a much younger person. However, she's really talking to the dad, Joe Cloud on Fire. And, he's a much older gentleman who's been widowed.
Who was last young on Bonanza.
Who's last, right. Yeah, exactly. And so they're corresponding, you said, going back and forth, sharing, right? They have the shared grief that they're working on. I think he's trying to find his place in life. I think he's lonely, right? His wife has died. He's not really interested in the hotel and running the hotel with Ray. And so you got Ray all excited about the hotel. Tina's going out to meet the love interest that she's been riding with. And you have Joe, who's just looking for companionship, right? And it's who my favorite character? I have two. One really my favorite, the chef.
The chef.
So
who is Native American?
And he is he's the chef, but he's a vegetarian chef at this beautiful resort and restaurant. And the one part where he's going around, he's greeting the guests, and he's trying to talk them into vegetarian meals, right? We have this pasta, we have this and stuff. And the one part, the guy goes like, oh, this beef is so good. This is like, what do you call this beef? And he looks at me and goes like, we used to call him Bob. Like the guy just pushes away the food. So the other person who I didn't mention in the beginning was Stu. So Stu is the actual TripAdvisor reviewer. And one thing about Stu, just to mention, is that he's played by M. Ernest Walsh. M. Walsh has been in Fletch, Time to Kill, Raising Arizona, The Cranks Christmas, or Christmas with the Cranks. he's been around and acting for 50 some years.
Well, and he's a great character because you recognize him, don't you?
Immediately.
And the other great thing about him, perfect person to pick to send, because he doesn't strike you as someone from a fancy review company at all.
Yeah. And if, I don't know if all his characters have been someone who has a drinking problem, but many of them are. And so,
he just needed a rumpled coat like Columbo,
Exactly. So those are the four main. So you have Ray anticipating this reviewer to come in, Tina wanting to meet the love of her life. Where it gets fun is Tina arrives. She's greeted by the hotel desk person, and so she comes in. They all identify her as the reviewer,
right?
She and Joe have a great relationship, or she and Ray rather start like getting romantically involved. They start, he thinks he's there. He thinks she's there to review the hotel. She thinks that he is her pen pal.
Yeah.
And so they start sort of this whole relationship.
And when they're talking about it, they're kind of talking past each other, and some of it they don't understand, and some of it makes sense.
Right. Well, he said, do you always do this? Right. And thinking like, do you always have dinner and like sort of go on a date with the owner of the hotel? She's like, well, I haven't done it a lot, but well, yeah, I would say I always do this. And he's like, well, that's crazy, right? You're here to review my hotel, but we're going to go on a date. Oh, okay. And then you have Stu comes in, like you said, he's all frumpled, grumpy. He's got his hair sticking out. The last thing you would expect to be a professional writer on hotels. And he comes in and he's, no one suspects he's anything but just some kind of tourist, right? And it turns out too that he has his trouble, right? He's on the road all the time. He's kind of a grump.
Yeah.
He's not really in touch with his daughter a lot. And so, you have all these different things happening at different times. And it just sort of leads to all these different misunderstandings.
Yeah.
Right?
And everything goes wrong with
Everything goes wrong. Like I said, so Tina and Ray, finally kind of get mad at each other because Ray is thinking like, you're just using me. And she thinks, well, I came out here and expressing my true love for you and you're not saying anything. And then you have, the dad who is working with Stu, the advisor, and invites him to go play bingo. And they go play bingo. And at their bingo games, they give out Jeeps.
Yeah. I mean, this is bingo, intensive bingo.
And so they go out and Joe really wants to have that Jeep. But then Stu wins it. He gets mad and jealous. So he takes them on a back road and they get lost. And so, right, all this stuff is falling apart. But then all of a sudden with the disappearance of Ray's dad, Joe, things start to get serious, right? And he's worried and Tina's seeing like, oh, this guy's probably a little hawk is seeing that he's probably a really good guy. I should really try to get to know him a little bit better. And so little by little things start to sort of come together, right? Like Ray's.
And the truth comes out.
Yeah. The old dude, and the girl start like go off on their little own and they talk a little bit about their pen palship and realize that, in fact, at one point he says, I was expecting you to be a lot older. And she's like, well, I expect you to be a lot younger, like your son, right? But they do kind of resolve their differences. Stu hurts himself and has to be taken in a helicopter to the hospital. And then he's still mending and his daughter comes to visit him. So it really does kind of all come back together.
And I didn't think of it till you said it. It does have all the elements or the trappings of a Hallmark, the misunderstandings, the city girl coming in. And I don't want to say that disparagingly because it actually, and I think the Native American element adds a whole new layer to it.
Yeah, that's where it's going to go next. So throughout the movie, right, you do see the whole community part of the Native American families, right? They come together on Christmas Day, right, to give thanks, to celebrate the Christmas morning. You also see that all the people who are working, they're all part of this, maybe not actually related, but relate it in their culture, relate in the fact that they're there for the success of the ski resort. How the movie ends is really good too. I'm not going to share the ending, but I will say this, the cliffhanger I'll leave in the end of the movie, there is this mad rush, right? Because, Waitina and Ray have sort of reconciled that they're not angry with each other. They're not back together. Ray goes racing to the airport to meet her. It doesn't end there, but you have to watch what happens.
Yes, exactly.
But it was a really, really good movie.
And was it festive?
Oh my gosh. It's funny. I said going back to like watching a movie with Sue. So I'm going to give my rating and Sue's rating.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? So we both thought it was festive.
Great.
Yeah. How about you?
Absolutely. And in fact, I like the element in there where they're doing the music, and it has a very Native American, but it's the traditional Christmas carol. Yeah.
Right. Silent Night.
Yes. Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. So very festive, and even the surroundings of it are wonderful. And then, what'd you think without the feeling?
Oh, I love it because, and this is maybe classic rom-com, but you got drama, you got humor, you got, emotion, you got love, it's hitting on all the cylinders, you know what I mean? So you're being brought along and you're invested in the characters and you're loving it as it unfolds. So yes.
Yeah. Again, I think the last two movies we've been very in sync. I agree. I think it's just it's a feel good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a feel good movie. Would you watch it in the future?
So I have to admit, I have watched this a couple of times. I have, because I really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's one of my favorites.
I would watch it in the future too. And again, what I like to do too, what we've done so far with this podcast too, is try to give context to when it happened, when it was filmed. Like you said, I love how you brought out there was no casinos or all the other sort of negative connotations of the Native American culture. So I think I would watch this again and, kind of reflect on the time that it was filmed and what a positive impact it had for the indigenous population.
And you know what? I think because there are some elements with kids in it and stuff too, it's a good family film to watch, with all different ages. I think could appreciate the movie.
Yep. And would you recommend it to someone?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I would.
Yeah, I agree.
In fact, I'm going to go home and recommend it to my wife and make her sit down and watch it with me.
Well, I told Sue not to tell Mary Ellen that we watched it together, right? And I almost texted you and said, "Do I have your permission to watch it with my wife?" But decided not to do that. Do you know how to say Merry Christmas in Navajo?
No, do you?
I do. Well, it's interesting, right? I mean, again, just researching, since there's over 500 distinct Native American languages spoken in North America.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep. And I'm going to do 500 different ways to say. Maybe not. But like I said, the movie was in the Utah area where the film was set. There are 5 major tribes located there, and one which is the Navajo. So, and they're the second largest in the U.S. And so I thought, like, maybe we'll focus in on how to say Merry Christmas in Navajo.
Okay. Great.
So to say Merry Christmas in Navajo, which really means good wishes at Christmas time, it's Ya'e Kishmas. Ya'e Christmas.
You always pronounce it way better than me. I don't know what it is, but Ya'e Kishmas.
I think that's right.
Ya'e Kishmas.
Yep. And again, it means good wishes at Christmas time. But let's talk a little bit cultures. We touched a little bit on this before. The introduction of Christmas to Native Americans was at times considered a little bit controversial, right? Europeans brought Christianity and imposed it onto the Native American communities. I think we learned that all in high school.
Yeah.
And, replacing their own spiritual beliefs and those with those in the Bible. However, it is true that some tribes accepted the Bible and Jesus' teachings voluntarily. Indigenous people had been observing the winter solstice since ancient times. And many Native American people found that the story of Christmas and Christ child's birth fulfilled that tribal prophecies.
Wow.
So,
really?
Yeah. So it was sort of like some of the things they believed was coming together with these new teachings. And many tribes, the Christian communities or customs became interwoven with the native culture.
And I would say in this film, you saw that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You saw they had the Christmas customs, but they were very influenced or colored by the Native American culture.
Very much so. Very much so. The earliest known North American Christmas carol was written in the tribal Wendat language in the Huron Wendat people. The song is known as the Huron Carol, and it was written in 1643 by a Jesuit priest.
Isn't that amazing? So our very first North American Christmas carol comes from Native American people.
300 plus years ago.
Wow.
Yep. He used similar images he used similar images so that Joseph was dressed as indigenous people. The wise men were chiefs and were wrapped in rabbit skin. Hunters took the place of the shepherds, and chiefs brought gifts of fox and beaver furs.
So to relate to the Native Americans, they used images that they were familiar with.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
right on.
Great.
Let's
say, Mark, next to the naked Santa Clauses, I am going to have an indigenous manger scene.
Well, you're going to need a few more things for your manger scene, right? Because the manger animals were a fox, a buffalo, and a bear. So I suggest.
How awesome is that, though?
Yeah.
What a great scene! I'd love to see that one.
Exactly. So he took all these things and put it into a carol to make Christmas maybe a little bit more relatable for the Native American families. We always have to talk about food, right?
Because we got to leave here hungry.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what. After I read what the meals consist of, I'm like, I'm looking for a celebration someplace. Tribes often host a special feast on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day with traditional native foods of salmon, walleye, shellfish, moose, venison, elk, mutton, geese, rabbit, wild rice, collards, squash, pine nuts, green chili stew, plebo bread, piki bread, and bannock, which is kind of a fried bread. So,
oh my gosh,
like that sounds wonderful. I'll take just 6 or 7 of those things. They have a pine torch procession, and then participate in ceremonial dances that continue for about a half a week.
Oh my God. Now see, I love that. Like a pine torch procession. That's great.
Well, it's interesting too, because oftentimes we're younger and scouts, and we learned, right, that, crumbled up pines with our flints could make, if they're dry, could make a great, incendiary things to get your fire started. Yeah. So putting a bunch of pines together kind of made sense to me, but we have to try it.
I wish I would have known when I put the Christmas lights up to turn them on in Trout Valley, because we could have had a pine torch procession.
And then after they sort of eat, right, there's special dances that include the buffalo and the eagle and antelope in harvesting. So like they sort of are playing out those characters with their dress, right? Dressed as buffalo and antelope and stuff like that. And the Christmas dancing is always held is led by the elders initially, but by the third or fourth day of their celebration, the children have taken over. I don't know if that's tradition or soreness.
And that's true of our Christmas too. The kids ultimately take over.
That's right.
Now I love all these customs. It would have been kind of fun to see a little more of these in the Christmas in the Clouds. You know what I mean? That would have been cool.
I think so too. Could have expanded the awareness of the culture a little bit more. But yeah, some pretty cool stuff. What about music?
Should we listen to some music?
We should.
This calls for some Christmas music.
Yes, this Christmas music.
What kind of Christmas music is that?
Least you could do is play some Christmas music.
And now back to Christmas music.
This episode's song is by Phyllis Sinclair, who's a member of the Cree Nation. Her Cree name is Songkeeper Woman. Not surprised.
Perfect.
Yep. The Cree are a North American indigenous people, and this song is written in the Cree language. It tells the story of the first Christmas night and the birth of Jesus. The title is Mano Oasis, which means beautiful child in the Cree language. Let's listen.
Swak, Kitwak, Kukus Peit, Muna Makamato, Mino Awasi, Kiwisa Kitten.
I don't know if you heard, but the song features the traditional native musical instruments. There was a rattle, a drum, and a flute.
I could tell. You could hear them. I mean, it was awesome.
Right? I mean, yeah, it sort of stood out. But some of the lyrics include lines like, "Be with me, I ask of you, Great Spirit. When I go through the stars, be with me."
The Great Spirit. I love it. Mark, I got to tip my hat to you because we got now the Navajo language and Cree. You know, we covered two different tribes there. That was great. That was really nice.
But don't you think it's interesting that there's like 500 different dialects?
Yeah. I
mean, and I don't want to take us down, but think about how did they communicate with each other, right? Pre-Europeans coming on the land, right? I mean, I wonder how many their disagreements and their fights were because they couldn't really.
Because if you think about how many languages in Europe, maybe 25.
Yeah.
Now I suppose there's some dialects in there or whatever. So maybe at the most 100.
Yeah.
500. Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some overlap. But I found that fascinating. Yeah. So Bob,
yes,
we've been focusing on Native Americans and how they adopted our traditions. But let me ask you this question. If you were to explain our Christmas customs to a foreign visitor, so our Christmas traditions in America to a foreign visitor, what is a common holiday or ritual ceremony that is uniquely, I'll say it one more time, uniquely American?
It's tough because I think I'm influenced because yesterday was Black Friday, so I'd say shopping, our largesse and going, which is, maybe I feel like the excess is uniquely American, but, maybe I'm not being fair to our foreign listeners, but one thing I would say that truly is part of the season that at least, I don't know if it's uniquely American, but it's an important part of it is generosity at this time. I mean, you hear, food pantries, charities and all that. They get overwhelmed at this time of year. And actually, we should get better about doing it throughout the year. But the one thing that Americans definitely do at this time is they give.
That's a great answer. I feel the Christmas spirit just with your answer.
You're glowing.
I am, and I feel so bad about what I'm about to say because that's a very thoughtful answer. I immediately went to really negative stuff, like Elf on the Shelf.
Yeah, okay. Well, but you know what? Now that is uniquely American. You're right. You're right.
And then the other one, I thought of you when I thought of this. Wait, this is going to sound wrong. I thought of you, but ugly sweaters.
Just because I'm sitting in one right now?
There's got to be a different word than ugly. But I like your answer a lot. Yeah.
You know what, though? I love... I know you're saying you're thinking it's bad, the superficial Elf on the Shelf, but the whole, when you talk about uniquely American... putting a spy in someone's house to spy on their activities. I'm like, oh, uniquely American. That's awesome.
Exactly. I don't even want to. We should have an episode just on Elf on the Shelf.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe we can post some. Go to our Facebook page, and we'll find some odd Elf on the Shelf things I've seen.
Exactly.
But to close for tonight, maybe we'll just go a little bit more positive. Each episode we always give a little bit of quote about Christmas. A little bit different. Our last show, right? We talked about Jolly Life and what a great movie that was.
Yeah.
I thought about after our last show, as we was leaving the studio, there was a piece in there in the movie where they're in the mall and there's the kids singing and stuff like that. I'm going to leave you tonight with a couple of verses from that song, which I think embodies make that generosity, the Christmas spirit and stuff. And so in that song, there's a bunch of kids singing, and the two lines I'd say that just really struck me as what I want Christmas season to be. It's hello hope, goodbye sorrow, every day is a gift to us.
That scene, right when you described it, I know exactly what it is. And what I love is, if you recall, Rozzy is in the middle. He's in jumping around and he's excited, and the kids are singing. It's a wonderful moment. But that you recognize the lyrics. That's awesome. That is great.
Yeah. So that's what I hope everyone's Christmas holiday is as you go through the next couple of weeks, is that every day is a gift to us, and so let's appreciate it. So thanks for the show tonight,
Mark. Your mom would be very proud.
I hope so. But don't forget,
and let's belt ourselves in.
Yes,
we're ready to go.
We are ready to go.
We're ready for liftoff.
Let's go. And don't forget, leave your comments, your suggestions on our Facebook page. Comment where your favorite listening spot. We appreciate all of you, and get ready for a rockin' holiday season.
You're the best to remember that. I always forget to, and when we talk about a Thanksgiving episode, I'm thankful for the people that put in their time and listen to us. You know what I mean? I enjoy talking to you, Mark, but I also love to hear from the people who listen and enjoy what we do here.
I agree.
Actually, we're done. Done.
It's over. It's over.
It's over, kaput, finito.
It's over.
It's over. It's over.
This has been a Waysound Studio production.
And sound engineering on our show is by Jake Fontana.